For more on the NATO summit, the tone, the rhetoric, and the substance, let me turn to Eleanor Clift, a political analyst at U.S. news site The Daily Beast. Eleanor, welcome to the program.
Glad to be with you.
So how do you think things went at the NATO summit? Certainly, Donald Trump came out swinging before he even left Washington, criticizing NATO allies. And then once he got to Brussels, criticizing Germany for saying it was controlled by Russia. But things seemed to tone down a bit as these gatherings and these meetings progressed. Your take on the whole?
Well, the president pronounced it the best NATO meeting ever. And I think he feels pleased because he made his point that the NATO allies have to put in more money for their defense. And so I think he's pleased with the outcome. As for the allies, they're very careful about pushing back. I mean, nobody wants to kind of set him off. So I think people were basically nodding and gentle pushback. And then they'll wait for the next crisis to erupt. And I don't necessarily think any of these countries are going to increase their contribution to NATO. They're having difficulty meeting the expectations as it is. It's 2.5% of GDP by 2024. He wants 4%, and he wants it sooner, which analysts are saying that would militarize Europe, which I don't think is what anybody really wants. So I think the key with this president is you kind of treat him gently, and then you let him go on his merry way. And that merry way is now, of course, to meet with the Russian president.
So in your take is nothing really changed because there are no firm commitments from any of these NATO allies on how much they're going to increase their spending and within what time frame. In fact, French President Emmanuel Macron rejected Trump's assertion, saying in the communique, it reaffirms the commitment to 2% in 2024. That is all. So nothing really changed. That was the commitment before, and that remains the commitment now.
Right, and there's not even much of a war of words. And again, with this president, I have never seen an American president dominate the news on such a consistent basis ever since he set foot in the White House on every single day, on every single news cycle. And so there's this expectation, well, you know, another crisis will soon come, plus the fact that his entire administration and the U.S. Congress are on a different page from this president. The Senate voted a resolution in support of NATO, 97-2, two Republican outliers. So the country, polls show that Americans really want to support NATO. So I think the president, again, he's speaking to his base. This sense of grievance, you know, everybody's taking advantage of us. You know, they're a bunch of freeloaders.
Everything is unfair.
We're not getting our money's worth. And he's the big real estate developer from New York, and he's going to get a better deal. So he operates as though he was still in Trump Tower in New York.
Let me move on to his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The world really will be watching to see what these two leaders say. How concerned are NATO allies about this summit, and why do you think they're so worried?
Well, first of all, the contrast between the way he berates and scolds allies who've been with him now for 70 years and the way he never says anything negative about Vladimir Putin does raise eyebrows. And then secondly, he intends to meet with Mr. Putin one-on-one with just translators, plus the fact Mr. Putin does speak English. I mean, he's not completely fluent, but he could probably handle himself without translators, but there will be no aides. And
sort of like his meeting with Kim Jong-un.
Yes, yes. And, you know, Ronald Reagan met with Gorbachev that way, and they did sort of form a personal friendship, and it did pay off. But I think the concern here is that the president may agree to stop NATO exercises in that area because Russia doesn't like them, just the way he did with Kim Jong-un and those exercises with South Korea, that he might say, oh, don't worry about Crimea, you know, they all speak Russia there anyway, and we're not going to fight you on that. And just the whole notion of the dissing of NATO and then the embrace of Putin, I think really encourages countries that are not necessarily America's allies to sort of push the limits. It just shows you can get away with things with this president.
Always interesting to watch these meetings. Eleanor Clift, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.